So your ego is too big for trading. And I don't mean that in a arrogant type of way, like you're being arrogant with your ego. But what I actually mean is that your ego is too big that it's so attached to the outcome of your trades. So you base your feelings, your identity based on an outcome. And this is one of the biggest mistakes that traders fall into because it's so easy. So whatever you do in your trading, all the decisions that you make are based on this ego attachment to outcome. Okay, so in this video, we're going to go through the ego, how to detach from the outcome without effort, and focus on the process and your identity better. Okay, so that you can actually improve in trading. So if you're new to my channel, go ahead, like and subscribe, drop your comments below, let me know where you're at, and let's get started. You see, the real problem with your trading is that you're not actually trading your market structure or your strategy or your price or any of that, okay? You're making all of your trading decisions based on the way you feel, your identity, okay? So it's like this. Basically, if you take a loss, okay, you somehow think that you're a bad trader. So it hurts. Yeah. And because of that, your ego is hurt. You're trying to fix the trade. Okay. So what that leads to is a revenge trade. Okay. And you can't help it because your ego is so in control of your emotions. Okay. Of your actions. Or you take a win. And that win buffs up your ego, okay? Makes you feel like you're a good trader, okay? And that you can do it again, it's easy, and so then that causes you to take unnecessary risk and causes you to overtrade. So basically, your actions, your trading, right? It's all based on a reaction from a previous trade. Okay, so you're reacting from what has just happened. Okay, either a win or a loss. Your ego is taken over. So you need to understand that and overcome this and be able to separate yourself from your ego. Leave the ego outside of trading. Okay, I'm not saying to completely get rid of your ego and go through life with no ego. You have to, have some kind of backbone at some point and let people know what's up when there are certain situations that call for it, right? But in trading, you can't do it, right? You just have to follow your process and detach from all outcomes. You see, 99% of traders go through the day like up and down emotional roller coaster based on what is happening to their trades because their ego is attached to that outcome. So, you know, if they if they take a loss, now I was this at one point, okay? So I understand this really well. But if they take a loss, right? Then they are in a bad emotional state. You see? They're feeling bad with themselves, they're angry, they're snappy, they can't focus on anything else. They're not in a good state of mind. They're feeling bad, right? And that just ruins the entire day for them. And I'm sure you can relate. You take one loss and your whole day goes out the window, whether you continue to trade or not. Or you take that win and now your day is good. You see? That is what most people are doing with trading. They're just reacting in this way. So we have to detach. We have to separate ourselves from the outcome. Okay? You have to be present. In order to get rid of your ego and detach, you have to be present on what is happening right now, currently. Okay? And having the metacognition and awareness in your brain to understand this and call yourself out and bring yourself back to the present. And you do that by letting go of yesterday's trade. You see, yesterday's win or loss was yesterday. It's not today, right? It does not define you. So if you took a loss yesterday, it doesn't require you to go and change your strategy and tweak and do all of this nonsense to feel better. Or it's not, even if you took a loss yesterday, like that shouldn't determine whether or not you're gonna if you can't get over the loss, you're gonna hesitate today. You see, because you're still stuck on yesterday, the past. So you can't live in the past. You have to understand this at a core level. You have to know that basically every single new trade is a different, like it's its own individual trade. The setups and the patterns might be similar, but the entire move, the way the ticks play out, the volume, all the different moving parts will never play out exactly the same way as yesterday's trade, as your past trades, right? Every single trade is unique. And when you can understand that, you can just let go and say, well, you can just accept it for what it is and be present with the current trade, okay? And that will let go of all your hesitation and your doubt, okay? But then also, when you're in the trade, you are fearful. If you have any fear about your decision, about the way the trade's going, you're overthinking, you're worried about losing or winning, that's because you now have your mind attached to a future event, to the result. Does that make sense? So that's the flip side. So now, instead of being present again, you are stuck on a future event that you cannot control. You do not control the future. You cannot control that future event. Whatever happens is going to happen, and there's nothing you can do about it. So you have to make peace with the uncertainty and be able to sit in the discomfort. And the way you sit in the discomfort is by doing a meditation that will separate you from your trade. Okay? That's how you detach. So in your meditations, right, you imagine the trade as a trade and you as yourself, the self. I am. Okay? And this is empowering because this will separate you from the trade. So you imagine yourself, you picture yourself while you're taking the trade, that there is a cord, like a piece of string between you and the trade. You imagine taking scissors and cutting that cord and separating yourself and feeling the distance, acknowledging the distance between yourself and the trade. So the trade is its own self, and you are your own self. You are not connected. Okay, this is an important technique, and it works. If you can separate yourself and make that mental distinction between you and that trade, okay, you're going to detach. And it's not even force detachment, because most people try to detach by force, but they don't understand the rules of attachment, what's happening under the surface. So they're trying to force detachment and thinking that, oh, it's a skill that I have to develop, and I have to work on this, and it's really hard, and it's really hard because they don't actually understand how to cut the cord, to separate. See, if you are to detach, you have to separate, and to separate, you have to mentally separate yourself from the physical, from whatever. And you do that with relationships, with people, with situations, with outcomes, not just with trading. This is how you get your power back. This is how you become empowered. You see? Because right now you are feeling disempowered in your trading. You have no power, and you're letting your ego control you because you have attached yourself and given your power away to something outside of you. Does that make sense? So you are attached to an outside entity, be that a person or your trade or your outcome. This is important. So you have to be able to cut those cords through meditation, okay, and training the brain, training your mind, your subconscious mind, to be okay and safe to sit by yourself and alone as the individual I am person that you are. You are an individual. You see? You are not you are connected, but you do not rely on the external. Everything is within. Your world comes from within. So if that is the case, you take care of the internal. And you can only take care of the internal by detaching from the external and letting go, letting the chips fall as they fall, wherever, knowing that you don't control outside outcomes, other people's choices, other people's behaviors. You cannot control that. You cannot control the market and making peace with that. All you can control is yourself within, your reaction or your response, even better. See, that is how you get your power back. And then the way that you can detach from your trading is through past experience, knowing your numbers. You see, doing the reps in the past, doing your back testing, having that confidence to know your edge, to understand your numbers. You see? So you're not attached to the outcome because you know that over a sample size of trades, you come out on top anyways because you've seen it 1,000 times, 10,000 times. Because you've done the back testing, you've done the forward testing, you've seen it working so many times that you trust the process. And because you trust the process, you detach easily, right? You're not worried about a loss. You're not worried about a win. You just know that a loss and a win is part of your edge. It's part of your process. You can just be okay with whatever because over time you come out on top because you have the edge. If you don't come out on top over time, you have no edge. Then you got to go back and fix your strategy. But once you know your strategy is working, this is the rest of the process. Does that make sense? It doesn't have to be hard. It really doesn't have to be hard. There are just things that you have to understand about your mindset, your psychology, the way you think, the way you look at the way you approach the market and your trading, so that you don't crumble, so that you don't overtrade, so that you don't try to revenge trade, you don't have a tilt, you don't do any of that. You're just solid. You see, you're stable, stability. If you become stable and solid, then you become consistent. And then when you become consistent, you get consistent results over time. Does that make sense? You see? So we have an entire module for this within the course on how to detach and how to kill the ego and let go of outcomes that you cannot control. Okay? And we fix this at the core. We delete the negative emotions that are controlling your nervous system at the core. We let that go. We cut those cords, you see? And then we set you free. Once you are free, you're free to do whatever you want, essentially. So that's the first link in the description if you want to work on your inner state, your trading mindset, okay? If you're new to my channel, go ahead, like and subscribe, drop your comments below. I'd love to hear where you're from and what you're dealing with. And other than that, you're on your own. Until the next video, I'll see you again. Bye.